Good morning. You are listening to the Community Radio Show on WLEE News Talk 990. I am Bukhari Sirraj. I'm here with Muhammad Hadi.
Hey.
And that was the worst hey I've ever heard.
I didn't know the mic was on yet.
It's like, hey. All right, so today is, what did we say, September 8th?
Hey, I just told you that 30 seconds
Look,
ago.
man, short term is not working in the morning, okay? All right. Getting right into it. We're talking.
Did you give out the numbers? 788-0990, 1-877-953-3990.
See, I was going to say that after I told them what the show was about.
Oh.
Got to spark their interest first. So, and I know I banged on the table again. Okay, we're talking about politics today. Of course, we've just had a whole lot of political energy going on with the Republican National Convention and the Democratic National Convention. Did you catch those?
I did. I saw the Republican National Convention reminded me of a locker room. My football team.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah, right? I mean,
it was very aggressive for a while.
Right. It was all vanilla flavored.
Okay, so
and in the Democratic one, I caught the most impressive one. I haven't found time to sit and listen to 48 minutes of Bill Clinton.
Right.
I thought I did catch him wagging that finger again. That kind of was like, a
little throwback.
Exactly, yeah. But then I did see John. I did hear John Kerry's speech.
I didn't see John.
And it was like, dude, where were you 8 years ago?
Mm.
It's like that fiery speech. He was so such a pushover 8 years ago. But
right.
I guess he really, this is kind of like the I told you so speech.
Okay.
But yeah, so I made my kids watch it. They hated it.
Yeah, they're gonna hate it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
here's a question. So we go back and forth. Then. So here's what is fascinating. Is the vast majority of minority groups are vote Democratic.
Okay.
Or vote with the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
That's inclusive of Muslims, and yet I think as a community that doesn't get us anything in return. Particularly if you're looking at the issues that are important to Muslims. Number one, not that's the most important, but just simply the first thing that popped in my mind was foreign policy.
Okay. With
foreign policy, Republicans and Democrats, there's no difference, right? The Republicans, I would argue that it's better to have a Republican than a Democrat because they tell you exactly what they're going to do. Did you know that under Obama, drone attacks have increased?
Now that
you didn't know that.
But this is the thing with that.
Hold on, I'm not done yet. Hold on, don't.
Okay.
All right. So with the foreign policy, it's not. It's actually with the Republicans, you know what you're going to get. With the Democrats, they talk one thing and they do another with respect to foreign policy. Look, domestically, Muslims are fairly conservative when it comes to social issues and things of that nature, and yet the African Americans and there's nothing to believe that the Muslim African Americans vote any different than the larger African American population. They vote Democratic too. It's like what gives? Or just don't vote at all, right? Which is just like completely moronic if you don't vote. So. And we have, and there are stats to back that up. In that, according to that Pew survey in 2011, 70% said that they lean towards the Democrats, 11% towards the Republicans, and 19% claim to be independent. I just consider them to be confused because how can you not know what
Okay. So how are you gonna? Because I consider myself independent. Okay, and this is
you're
why.
Independently confused.
That's what? I have an opening statement just for you. Okay, because my question was, which side of the line do Muslims tend to fall on? Okay, which that's what we're asking here. For me, there was a line in the sand, and to match my views, which are heavily influenced by my religion, I would have to erase that line in the sand. And I share and reject views on both parties, undoubtedly putting me in the category of independent. See, the thing is, I think to have a balance.
Did you just stay up all night to write that?
No, man. No. I was thinking specifically of you when I wrote that.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad I was inspiring you.
I wouldn't say you were inspiring me, but I thought of you when I wrote that. So this is the thing. Okay? You wonder why minorities and black folks and Muslim folks, why we vote Democratic. The thing is that the where the Democratic Party stands has changed. Specifically, and I have a timeline of a couple, I think, of important dates and presidents, that kind of outline those changes. Okay, now we're gonna go back a little ways. Okay, we're gonna go back a little ways. 1829.
Oh God! Whoa!
hold on.
Whoa! You went back two centuries.
You gotta look over. Yes, you gotta look over where it came from and where it's going to. Now, of course, there's a whole lot of information that you can research on the beginning of the Democratic parties, and how you had first it was the Democrat Republican Party against the Federalists, and then the Whigs and all of these.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna go to the Whigs.
No,
Start with the Whigs.
Not going to the Whigs. Not going to. I had to review my history on the Whigs, and they just weren't really important to bring up right now. Okay, now 1829 to 1837, Andrew Jackson was president, and during that time, I guess there was coined the Jacksonian democracy, which is different than the democracy that we have now. Okay. Now, he was supposedly the only president to eliminate the national debt. Good for him. Thought I'd just bring that up. But he was responsible for the ethnic cleansing and relocation of a large portion of the Native Americans. He supported states' rights and small limited federal government, and he was a wealthy slaveholder. Now, if you look at the party nowadays, it's a little bit more for pro-government, large government. Of course, slavery is kind of a thing of the past. But if you were going to look at who would support, I guess some more crooked ideas that aren't in favor of, say, African Americans or minorities, it's not going to be the Democrats. Did I say that right? Who's not going to be in favor? No,
the Republicans. You're talking about the Republicans.
Right. There you go. I think.
Right, you're saying that the Democrats are similar to the Jacksonian democracy in that they are for big government and.
No, it's changed. That's what. See, then it wasn't about big government. Then now it would have been the Republican Party.
Right.
See, things switched.
Yeah, things switched.
Right, and that switch happened, I guess, maybe 100 years later, around between the 1933 to 1945 presidential term of F.D. Roosevelt.
Right, FDR. Okay. Right, and then you come to Lyndon Johnson during the
exactly
Civil Rights Act, and you had the Democrats referred to as the Dixiecrats that were holding out, and Senator Byrd did a filibuster by reading from the white pages or something to try to block the passage of the.
Yeah, but during both of those presidential terms, one, you have the Democrats there, and see the thing with Roosevelt, because we were in the Great Depression, that's when everything with the New Deal came in.
Right.
And I think that was the defining turn, I think, when there was a shift from Democratic support being in the South to Democratic support going more northern. And you see those blue states and more in the New England states and things like that. That's when the shift turned. Okay. So if you're looking more historically over the longer term, the Democratic Party really wasn't in favor of minorities and things like that up until that more recent, less than 100-year span.
Okay.
That's when it flipped, and you actually have, I guess, the Democrats more so feeling what the Republicans would have actually represented, and vice versa.
Right.
So that's why you have that general support for the Democratic Party by the minorities.
It's because they support minority rights.
Right. Now, of course, you still do have some strong Democratic influence in some of the southern states, which, was coined the Southern Bloc states, those 11 states that were initially part of the Confederacy. Yeah, those, in the South, you got South Carolina, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Texas, Virginia, Arkansas, Tennessee, and North Carolina. Now those states, are still sometimes a little bit more on the conservative end of votes and support, things like that. But, if you remember, follow the drinking gourd. Remember that? No? I'm going to need you to get up on your slavery songs, man. Okay, but it was part of the Underground Railroad. They were going north. They wasn't going anywhere else.
Right.
Wasn't going south, wasn't going west. They were going north because the North had always supported, more open legislation and support of minorities. So that's kind of where it's at now. That's
that I understand. Yeah, the perception is that they support minorities.
Right.
But my question, the question is, if you're joining us, we're talking about whether it's more favorable for the community to be go along the lines of Democrats or Republicans.
Right. So we were just touching on some of the history. Oh, call in 788-0990. See you looking at the wall, or 1-877-953-3990, or you can follow us online if you go to WLEE 990.am. You can, I know what it is, man.
Okay.
You can click on listen live or stream.
You can see
stream
it,
live
right.
and see the audio.
But my point
video.
is that I was having this discussion, and for you conservatives out there, I'm not defending you. I'm about to blast you. Hold on one second. Because you guys are not inclusive, and because you guys are not, you're holding on to this vestiges of the past of let's go back in time where life was simpler and you see the world in black and white. You see the world as black and white, and you don't see it given the complexity and the diversity that it exists. And so, as Muslims, all right, we're forced to choose between protecting our rights and compromising on our social values, or our faith-based values and religious values, right? And I think part of the problem is that if you look at it, particularly from the time of the '60s, the conservative movement was kind of on the wrong side of history. They were against the Civil Rights Act. They were against all of these social changes that were moving kind of the country forward. Now, because of that, we're forced to, I think, kind of block out, I would say, the notion that we belong to a party that is, doesn't want, within reason, but doesn't want to have restriction on abortions, or that socially they're just, it's acceptable to be, to have out of wedlock children, and that's just, that's equivalent to, being married and having kids.
Okay.
Right. And I think that part of the draw, particularly between the immigrant community, the Muslim communities, towards the Republican Party before 9/11 was specifically on the social issues.
Okay.
And the tax breaks that they received. But yet, for the African American Muslims, they vote Democratic, and yet they're socially conservative as well. So I don't understand the advantage that presents to them. Frankly, I think the Democratic Party has been using the black vote for years. It's just like, it's almost guaranteed. It's like the sun's going to come up tomorrow. You're guaranteed that the vast majority of the blacks are going to vote Democratic. Are you not hearing me?
I'm hearing you. I'm just not. I'm not necessarily processing exactly where specifically you're coming from, and this is why. This is the thing. Okay,
I'm gonna give you stats.
No, not yet. Hold the stats. This is the thing. Okay, when we're dealing with government, especially big government and the conglomerate that we have here in America, one, change doesn't happen all that fast. Two, I think there are too many ways in politics to prevent positive acts such as filibusters, things like that have prevented progress from happening. Of course, being that we have a change every few years, with the presidency that doesn't necessarily line up with, of course, the House and the Senate, then you have, excuse me, you have, a lot of opposition, and as far as I'm concerned, a lot of time wasting meetings, talks, and agendas that really doesn't move the country the way that it should be. Also, you have the issue of a lot of money and, quite frankly, greed and corruption that's built. So the thing is, I don't think you're ever going to really get the perfect government scenario that's going to move things really the way that we want things to move at the time and the speed that we want things to move. But now, when I look on paper, what the Democratic Party represents and what the Republican Party represents, even if the person in office is not necessarily striving and doing a good job at being able to influence, those values, or making the movement or push in the direction that the party would generally agree with, looking at it on paper and comparing the two, I think a lot of people would more so line up with the Democratic Party, at least from an Islamic standpoint, because I think some of our conservative issues, such as which I outline, positions on where are we at.
You got a table. You did your homework.
For instance, gay marriage. Okay, that's something that generally Muslims are going to side on the conservative side, hands down 100%, except for, the occasional story that you hear.
Yeah, but if you're,
and things like that.
But if as Muslims you're electing Democrats into the office, you're definitely not helping. You're helping push along.
But see, this
is civil union agenda. That's my point.
But this is okay. But see, this is where you kind of have to look at the full picture. Like for instance, me personally, I was kind of surprised when Barack, he stood up and he had to accept the whole gay rights thing. But at the same time, it's kind of like you had to expect it. One, Biden pushed him into that, because once Biden was just like, oh yeah, whoop-de-doo, basically, Obama had to give it. He couldn't stay in that. I'm deciding.
Evaluating it.
No, it was evolving. He was evolving. Okay, so he couldn't stay at that position. And then historically, from the Democratic standpoint, he couldn't stay at that position. Now, what he did say is that, okay, he supports gay rights, whatever, but he wanted it to be taken care of at the state level. And if you look at how it was being taken care of, at the state level, for the majority of the country, is going to be, shot down. For the most part,
every single 33 states in which it's been a ballot measure to recognize
gay marriage,
right, as marriage, right, and civil unions, it's been rejected.
Exactly. So my thing is, if I'm looking at from that standpoint, and he's not going to be the type of president that's going to push that from a federal level, then I'm going to say, okay, I know it's not going to win at the state level. Let's evaluate the other points on the agenda and see, who weighs best. So that's how I would look at a situation like that, where it's like, okay, maybe he doesn't, his views and ideologies don't line up with mine, but based on the structure of the government and the system, things would still work out in my favor to vote for, vote for Democrat rather than Republican.
I disagree with you. I just think that it's because the Democrats talk a better game, and we've fallen for the hokey doke, and that listen,
get to the statistics, man. Because get to the statistics, because you're not giving me much back here. Come on. No, I'm not happy. Get to the statistics.
You're throwing a fit.
Statistics.
You're throwing a fit. You want a pacifier to calm you down? I mean,
no, because
all right. Look, listen. If you identify yourself as conservative, usually you tend to vote Republican. If you identify yourself as liberal, you tend to vote Democratic. Or you tend to be Democrat and you vote Democratic. That's just a general American population.
But see,
among Muslims, hold on.
Okay.
You just told me to read it.
Sorry. All right. You wasn't reading statistics.
Hold on. I'm telling you. I got to put it in context.
Go ahead.
All right. That 2/3 of those who describe themselves as conservative, 68% of Muslims that identify themselves as conservative, said that they belong to the Democratic Party. And that's because they like what they hear from the Democratic Party about, like, oh, let's put our arms around, why can't we all just get along? Homage to Rodney King, and yet their policies don't help us. Their policies don't help us.
Which policies and how so?
Because
I feel like there was
the foreign policies don't help.
Bush was a Republican,
right?
And you thought his foreign policies helped?
Has Obama's foreign policy changed?
Okay, we're still riding on the effects of Bush right now. That's the problem.
He promised to get out of Afghanistan.
Who?
Obama.
No, he promised to get out of Iraq.
And Afghanistan.
No, not really.
Maybe we need to go to the producer
because
and see if she can by the third vote.
Because she's like, oh, heck no. Keep me out of this.
No. Hey, he promised to shut down Guantanamo.
Okay, that he did.
There have been more drone attacks under Obama than there were under Bush.
That's probably because drones weren't as much in use at that time. Now, you got to understand, drones is a technological advancement, and things like that are going to be more. And me personally, I support drones.
He killed a U.S. citizen without trial, without arrest.
Now, look, and I want everybody to understand that I've definitely spoken out against that, and I don't agree with that. But at the same time, to my knowledge, he had renounced his citizenship to the United States. Now,
then you arrest him, you bring him here, and you try him as a, what is it called? When you renounce your citizenship as a traitor.
30 seconds. No,
as a traitor.
But this is the thing. Okay,
you don't just blow him the smithereens out 35,000 feet.
You have to expect that if you renounce your citizenship, you're no longer basically a member of the country, and you have a terrorist background, you're gonna get dealt with like a terrorist.
All right, we're gonna
It's
come back.
unfortunate,
Our
but I
number
think
is-
that's the truth.
our number-
788-0990 or 1-877-953-3990. We're having fun in the studio today. We're talking politics. This is a community radio show. We'll see you in a minute. Just going to a commercial break.